We did equations and inequalities. So let's say I asked you to solve each of these. What if I said, this. Anytime I give you an absolute value problem, what do you have to do first? Isolate it. Yeah, whether it's an equation or inequality, you have to get that absolute value by itself. So we'll subtract our 2. So we get a negative absolute value of 1/2 x plus 1 equals negative 12. Now my absolute value still isn't isolated because of the negative in front. So now we need to divide by -1. So the absolute value of 1/2 x plus 1 equals 12. Once you get the absolute value by itself, what do we do?
Do both, but make it -12.
Right, you do drop the absolute value and you do 2 problems. First one, nothing changes. The second one, you set it equal to a -12. So then if we solve, if I subtract 1, then to get rid of my 1/2, we could divide by 1/2 or multiply by 2, so I get x equals 22. And x equals -26. So you will have an equation on your quiz. You probably will have to isolate it first to get your solutions. Nice thing about these, you can always check them just by plugging it back into the original. All right. We also did inequalities in there, so I'd like to do just a couple inequalities and make sure we remember those. So if I said the absolute value of 3x minus 4 minus 2 is less than or equal to 6. What do we do first?
Get absolute value by itself.
Always have to have that absolute value by itself. So we add the 2. Okay, then we ask ourselves if this was an and or an or. Remember, less than and statement, great or is an or. So this is a less than, so it's an and. So that means my answer should just be one interval, a starting and a stopping point. To do that, we set it between the negative and the positive. And then we solve. So add 4 to everything. -4 less than or equal to 3x less than or equal to 12. Divide by 3. So this tells me x is between -4 and 4/3. We usually wrote the interval because it had an equal to, that's bracket, -4/3, comma 4.
So if it's equal to, right, it's both brackets.
Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't equal to, they'd both be parentheses.
Is it ever where they'll be different?
Not on these, no.
Okay.
You guys remember that? Let's do a greater than and just make sure we remember those. So if I said the absolute value of x plus 3 is greater than 5. So my absolute value is by itself. Great or, this is an or statement. So we did 2 separate things. Greater than 5, or what'd you do for the other one? Good. So if we subtract our 3. If you struggle on writing these inequalities, you could always draw yourself a picture. Greater than 2 looks like this. Less than -8 looks like this. On these, or we always got 2 separate pieces. So this would be coming from negative infinity and stopping at -8. It didn't have an equal to, so parenthesis. Union, this one starts at 2 and goes to infinity. Is that okay with everybody? I think I want to do one more example. I'd like to do a graphing example if we could. Remember we graphed piecewise functions in here? So let's kind of refresh one of those, and then I'll give you guys time to practice and ask questions. Okay. Let's say f of x equals x minus, or x plus 4 So remember our strategy for drawing these graphs? We did a T-chart for each piece. Okay, so the first one, it has 2 points, 2 endpoints, so we have to plug in both the -5 and the -1, and then we could do something in between. The -5 has an equal to, but the -1 does not, so what do we put there? An open circle. If it doesn't have an equal to, it gets an open. Okay, so then if I plug in -5, -5 plus 4, -1, -3 plus 4 is 1, -1 plus 4 is 3. So -5, -1, that was closed. -3, 1. -1, 3 is open. Because it had 2 endpoints, this is where it starts and stops. It doesn't keep going either direction. The second one says 2 if x equals -1. So the only x we can plug in is -1, and what we get out is a 2. So how do I graph that?
Just a dot.
Just a dot at -1, 2. And then the third piece starts at if x is greater than -1. So we have to plug in -1 and then things larger than that. But since -1 didn't have an equal to, it would be open. So if we put in -1, 2 times -1 is -3 minus 1, -4. Put in 0, you get -1. Put in 1, you get 1. So -1, -4 is open. But this one didn't have 2 stopping points. It just kept going for every x greater than -1, so this end just keeps going. It doesn't stop.
Shouldn't it be -3 for the -1?
Yes, I should. Thank you. 2 times -1 is -2, minus 1 is -3. Other questions? So what I want to do is just give you guys time to practice these. This is like what your quiz will be.